continue. Okay, Paula, over to you.
Okay, thank you. Well, hello everyone, and thank you for attending the session, exploring how local initiatives can encourage and support schools to take action on the climate emergency. My name is Paula Malone. As well as being here to tell you about Energy Sparks, I'm a primary school teacher and a climate education consultant, so I know firsthand both the opportunities and the obstacles facing climate action in school, and also about many of the fantastic local organisations that can help schools overcome these. We've got a packed schedule today with time for questions at the end. Feel free to pop your questions in the chat as we go along, and we'll answer them in the Q&A at the end. The session's being recorded and it will be posted on the Energy Sparks and the Council website within the next few days. So please do let colleagues and friends and local schools know if they haven't been able to attend today. My cat has just decided to attend, so if you hear a strange noise in the background, that's just her giving her support. She's lovely. Schools are ideally placed to be at the forefront of climate action. Deeply embedded in their communities, they can influence some of the behavioural changes that are crucial to moving towards a more sustainable society, starting with energy, transportation and diet, to name just a few. Earlier today, I attended an online launch of a new international study on climate anxiety among youth. The findings are startling. 75% of young people, and this survey was surveying thousands of young people, 75% of them surveyed for the report, which was written by psychologists, psychiatrists and psychotherapists from 6 universities, including University of Bath. They feel frightened for the future, and over half of them believe that humanity is doomed. For schools to take action on the climate emergency, therefore, is now a moral and safeguarding issue. We must prepare our pupils for the world they're facing, not just in 2030, but increasingly in our own communities today. And we need them to understand the impact that their own actions have. We have to respond as well to the increasing mental health impacts that the climate emergency is causing among our children and youth. But I'm preaching to the choir here. Our attendees and our panellists today are here to find out a little bit more about the fantastic local initiatives that schools can work with to reduce their energy use, to tackle litter, to develop sustainable modes of transportation, and to incorporate education for and about the climate into their wider curriculum. So let me just share my screen and I'll show you our schedule for this afternoon. So we're starting with, We'll have some opening words from Jo Marsh. She's pre-recorded a video for us, and she's the Chief Operating Officer for the Palladian Trust. And then Jill Johnson, Director of Wicked Weather Watch, is going to talk about how we can incorporate education and sustainability within the curriculum of the schools and throughout the school ethos. I'll be telling you something about Energy Sparks and how we can help save schools, cut their carbon footprint and save money. Then we've got Alistair Yule, sorry Alistair, I misspelled your name. Alistair Yule, who is the School Travel Plan Officer from Baines Council. Pauline Harris is here to talk about the School Climate Network. And then we've got Erica Davies talking from Keynsham Wombles about their No Place for Litter campaign. And then we'll have a Q&A at the end. Okay, so first of all, we're going to start with a video that Jo Marsh has recorded. I'm going to press play on this, and maybe, Michaela, you're still here. If you can't hear it, then please do shout. Okay, this is about 3 minutes.
Welcome to this session of the Baines Climate Festival. I'm Jo Marsh. I work in education and schools. I'm the COO with the Palladian Academy Trust, working with around 3,500 learners aged between reception and sixth form. what I just wanted to take a moment before you get started is just to share that for me, accessing events like this, working with Schools Climate Network colleagues, is really about tapping into what actions we could take as a group. We're quite a lot of families, and when we think about the individual actions we could take as pupils and as staff, as the families around us, as the organisations and businesses around us, suddenly being carbon neutral by 2030 becomes a little bit more possible. Hearing the ideas and the initiatives shared by those who've gone before us will stimulate us to have a go, and will stimulate us to start really looking down into the actions we are going to commit to taking. We as an organisation have made a climate declaration to be carbon neutral by 2030. That's our aim, that's our ambition. We're really keen to look at how we implement that in a set of regular and systemised actions, right through from our strategy through to our curriculum delivery, through our procurement approach, how we look at travel habits, both for the adults and the pupils, and working with partners such as the local authority, transport systems and others who really could help us influence those outcomes and have a positive impact on our attitudes and culture. So I think you'll be really inspired by the speakers that are coming along here in this session, and just really wanted to thank them too. But please do get involved in those everyday actions. When I look at some of our young people, our young year threes, for example, they will be taking their GCSEs when 2030 arrives. Our receptions will be just about to go into Key Stage 3. Now, when I think about that time frame, that really requires me to dig in along with the rest of our organisation and take action now. It's not going to be long before they're going to be asking me and others, what did you do? How did you achieve it? Because they will really expect us to have achieved carbon neutrality by 2030. So thank you for attending today. Thank you for the everyday actions you're going to take, and thank you for the courageous actions you're going to take from here on in, I hope inspired by some of the people you hear speaking. Please keep exchanging those great ideas. We cannot do without them in schools. We really do rely on that expertise and enthusiasm. So in advance, thank you for sharing, and look forward to seeing you at future events.
That was Jo Marsh, who is the COO from the Palladian Trust, one of the first academic trusts to declare a climate emergency, so a definite leader in the area. Next up, we have Jill Johnson from Wicked Weather Watch.
Hi everyone, thanks Paula for putting the presentation on the screen. So as Paula said, I'm Jill Johnson, I'm the director of Wicked Weather Watch, and we are a local Bath-based organisation working with primary schools to tackle the climate emergency and to help schools integrate climate change into the classroom. Next slide please, Paula. So our mission as an organisation is really to empower the next generation to care about and act on climate change. And Paula, just to say, I can't see the slides moving along, so I don't know if they are or not. That's perfect. Yeah, stay on that one. That's lovely. So in terms of who we are, we were founded by David Hempelman-Adams, who lives locally in Box. Many of you might know him as a polar explorer. And really, he founded Wicked Weather Watch, having seen 30 years worth of ice melt in the Arctic and to a lesser extent in Antarctica, and really wanted to do something to make sure the next generation was empowered and informed. Professor Terry Callaghan is a Nobel Peace Prize winning scientist. He was part of the IPC panel in 2006 when they were awarded the prize along with Al Gore and others. We've got a very small team of staff. We rely on our trustees and volunteers to really make an impact in the local area. Thanks, Paula. So what do? We inspire and educate, or at least we certainly aim to do that. So we've got a really big focus on the Arctic, partly because of the heritage of the organisation and our connections to Arctic scientists and explorers, but also, as everyone I'm sure will know here, that the Arctic is deeply affected by climate change, warming at twice the rate of the rest of the world. But it's also a really, really great way to engage pupils and to meet curriculum requirements. So it hits a number of buttons there. We bring climate change to life through first-hand accounts from explorers and others. We look at creative ways to engage children and make learning about climate change really fun and also less daunting. We all know from the report today it can be quite a scary topic for young people. We ensure that we work with experts to make sure the information we're giving is correct. But also, whilst we focus on the Arctic, making it relevant to our lives and our work and our schools here in the UK and to our own actions is really critical. And then we do all of this and support teachers to embed climate change into the curriculum as well. So just to go into a little bit more detail, some of the kind of programmatic areas that we look at is staff and volunteers will come in and deliver really structured but interactive and fun workshops in schools. You can see there the big Arctic map that's from one of the organisations that really helps to teach about it. We run science experiments, we do all sorts of games, drama, music, we've done dance, we've done cookery, making it really fun for the kids. And we can either work with a whole school or a specific year group for a day, half a day, or sometimes over a longer period of time. We also run teacher training. So I think it's absolutely critical that teachers feel both informed, empowered and confident to teach about climate change and the environmental issues in the classroom. We know that a study showed 67% of teachers don't feel confident to talk about climate change themselves. So really making sure that they have the information, the knowledge, some great free resources, that they've got case studies that then networks to other teachers in the local area and nationally, and helping them through CPD training is really important for us and for them. So there's 3 modules that we look at. There's climate change in the classroom, where we literally go through the key stage 1 and 2 curriculums, we unpick them and we look at how climate change and sustainability can be integrated through various topics and subjects, and how that might translate into everyday teaching. We then have a module basically looking at what is climate change, what do people need to know about climate change, and increasing their own climate literacy to hopefully then increase confidence to look at that in the classroom. And then we've got a specific module coming out on COP26 this year, the importance of that and why it's relevant for schools. We develop a lot of resources, sometimes just by ourselves, but often in partnership with other organisations. And so we've got recently developed over 50 new resources with Interact, which is going to be in an ebook, which will be launched shortly. That's across a wide age group, not just looking at primary schools, but also some secondary school information there as well. And again, that uses the Arctic to really bring climate change to life and what's happening to our world, as well as wider environmental issues through that. We've got a Key Stage 2 scheme of work, which can either be delivered in over a 6-week period, looking at a different topic every week, or with lots of standalone activities that can be pulled out of that. And that's everything from using a comparison between a European country and somewhere outside of Europe, so comparisons around Greenland and the UK, or Greenland and Canada. There's lots of information there on Russia, animals, habitats, sustainability. It's all tagged by theme on the website, and that's all free to access. School talks. So as well as delivering very in-depth workshops, we also get people who have been up to the Arctic, who are involved in science, who are involved in green energy and other areas of climate and environmental action to come in and really inspire the pupils that we work with, and to really give them both a sense of adventure, but also a sense of ambition and setting their sights on being able to really support this, to do what they want to do as children as they grow up, and to make the link between them here in the UK, what happens here, and how their actions impact other people far away and vice versa. So they're usually kind of very wondrous, exciting talks with lots of inspiring images and stories to be told to the pupils there. And finally, a bigger programme that we're running at the moment locally is the Climate Action Programme. So this is just for schools across Bath, Bristol and Chippenham at the moment. And it's a combination of the programme that we run, but instead of just an individual workshop or talk with a school or a single CPD, it's a programme that's running in schools over 4 terms. So it launched last week, and it's looking at workshops, talks, CPDs, and at least kind of 1 or 2 interactions per term over the course of 4 terms with a specific year group to hopefully give them a much more in-depth look at climate change, sustainability, and also biodiversity in that one as well. And there's still a couple of places left, so if you are interested, do get in touch. I will leave it there. Hopefully the slides will be shared with you all at the end of the talk today. Thank you so much for listening. I'm afraid I'm going to have to leave in a few minutes, but Paula is also a trustee of Wicked Weather Watch. So if you've got any questions at the end, please do ask. Otherwise, email me and I'd be very happy to tell you more about our work. Thank you.
Thanks, Jill. Just before we move on to Wicked Weather Watch, I know a lot of the participants, a lot of your audience members today are governors for schools. So if you are a governor for a primary school and you think that your school might be interested in the Climate Action Programme, then do get in touch. It is a free programme and it's got a fantastic amount to offer your schools and the school children. So please do. Good. Right. Move on to Energy Sparks now. Just start sharing my screen. Okay, great. So Energy Sparks, it started as a pilot run by Baines Council and Transition Bath in 2017. And since then, we've expanded across the whole country, and we're now working with over 150 schools across England, Scotland, and Wales. We're an online platform that schools can use to engage with directly to help them reduce their energy consumption. What we do is we take the energy usage data directly from the energy suppliers and present it in a way that even the youngest children can understand. Key to this is promoting energy literacy, understanding the impact of energy use in real world terms. So one of the ways that we do this is by making comparisons between school energy use and other criteria. So for example, costs, powering familiar equipment, and environmental impact. One of the things I like personally, I like best about the Energy Sparks programme is the way that they make comparisons. So I'll show you that one in a minute. But first of all, thinking about costs, it comes down to money a lot of the time. And so what we have is we've got lots of case studies where we show that working with Energy Sparks has saved schools thousands in electricity costs, or using Energy Sparks data has enabled schools to save hundreds of pounds by replacing faulty or inefficient equipment. So all these case studies can be found on our website. Back to my favourite part of Energy Sparks, and it's the comparisons that we make to get children to really understand what their energy use means. So a local school used 830 kilowatts of electricity last week. Putting it into something that children can understand, that would let you play 6 months of computer games non-stop. It's quite a lot. The same school used enough gas in 1 week to create enough carbon dioxide that would be the same amount as if you drove a petrol car 960 kilometres. These are my favourite comparisons here. When you think about the fact that a school could use about 61,000 kilowatts of electricity in a year, it would take 13 trees 40 years each to absorb that carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. However, it would only take a wind turbine 3 weeks to produce that amount of energy. And even as an adult working with lots of climate change thing, that fact blows my mind a little bit. So it's making those links to make energy efficiency quite exciting for kids, and also to get them to understand what the impact of their energy use is on the world around them. So pupil action is really at the heart of what we do. We offer a range of activities that enable pupils to take the lead on the energy efficiency work in their schools. And we do this, we have several different categories of activity. So one of the things that we've just done recently is we've revamped our website to make the user journey easier and more supportive for people in schools. So our activities are grouped under analyst, change maker, communicator, and detective activities. And these encourage pupils to develop analytical, investigative, communication, project management, leadership, collaborative skills, as well as learning about climate change and energy production. We offer programs, so to make it as easy as possible to start taking action and then to continue taking action, we offer programs that schools can sign up with, and they're all hyperlinked, and they can just work through different recruiting, analysing, investigating activities. We also offer programs about big questions, which are things that classes might want to do as a project, thinking about electricity use or climate change. You can also run our activities as a project. So first of all, you'd get the kids together, look at the data, think about the situation in your school, make a change, and then celebrate the change that you've made. And again, one of the fantastic things about Energy Sparks is that it's very up-to-date data. So if you looked at your school's data today, you made a change tomorrow, you went around and turned off all the light bulbs, or you exchanged all the light bulbs with LED bulbs, or you turned all the lights off in the cupboards, you could go back to that same chart next week and see what energy has been saved. So it's almost very immediate, which is really good when you're working with kids, because they do want to see that they've made an impact with the changes. So it's quite exciting. These are some of the analyst activities that we offer. So try to put it into bite-sized activities. So reviewing heating timing, or thinking what's happening in the school kitchen, when's your school occupied. If you're a school with solar panels, then again, it's kind of thinking, right, how is our solar panels? Just thinking about one question about what can we learn about our solar use, and how can we use that to be more energy efficient in schools. If you're an Energy Sparks school, and you can use all of our resources, even if you're not signed up to our program, but if you are, then you can use your own school's data in our activities. So thinking about when's your school occupied, we will give some generic graphs, and we'll give some questions that children can think about to get them thinking about energy consumption. But then if you're signed in, if you're logged into your platform, you can see your actual school's data, and you can respond to questions about that too. Our detective activities encourage kids just to kind of go around to spy on the teachers. We had one school in Durham who did some fantastic work. They did a spot check, and they shared the findings of their spot check with their teachers at a staff meeting, and were expecting changes. And then they went back a couple of weeks later, did another spot check, and then named and shamed the teachers who hadn't turned off their lights yet. So maybe a bit of a harsh approach in Durham, but we've suggestions of spot checks that children can do, and we provide all the resources that they might need as well. Communicator activities is about getting the Energy Sparks message out to the wider school community. So fellow pupils, teachers, employees at the school, that might be the business manager, the caretaker, the cleaners, or the school dinner staff. Also putting up posters, having assemblies, sending things home in the newsletter, so parents in the wider community can learn about it and take action as well. And then the change maker activities. These are things like running campaigns to, for example, put on a jumper, put on warm clothes instead of cranking up the heating when it's cold, or making sure that the lights are off on sunny days so that you're not using lighting inefficiently. We also have some explorer activities, which are more based at teachers, although pupils can use them as well. And these are more learning-based activities written as lesson plans that teachers can use in class. And it looks at more finding out the facts and information around climate change, about how our use of electricity and gas impact on the planet around us, learning about renewables, and using thermal cameras for some heat experiments as well. Those activities, again, free for everyone to use, even if you're not an Energy Sparks school, written as lesson plans, fully resourced. And if it was something that a teacher wanted to use throughout the curriculum for a term, then we give lots of suggestions and resources for using that in different subjects as well. Although we are mostly pupil-led, there are some schools that use it as a staff tool, and they have activities as well. We give lots of support for writing policies that they can use and adapt for their own school. And then we support them to carry out other activities as well. So for example, changing heating system configurations, building fabric change, upgrading appliances, and so on. Now, one of the functionalities that we're bringing in just next week is for schools to be able to set targets to reduce their carbon footprint or reduce their energy consumption by maybe 5%. And then when they take action on the website, they'll be able to see where their action has taken place, the immediate impact, and how close it's gotten them to their target. So hopefully that will make it much, much easier for school leaders to take action on that. We give schools a little bit of a progress report, a scorecard that they can use to see how they're doing. We do compare them with other schools of a similar nature and a similar location. So we'd compare small Bath schools with other small Bath schools and big Highland schools with other big Highland schools. You can see what other schools are doing. We try to build networks among the schools so that you can find out and get support from other schools as well. And we just have this scorecard showing that, for example, this school here did really well with their weekend and school day use, but hasn't made much progress since last year. I think this school made so much progress in their first year that there's not much more they can do for now, but there's always something more we can do. Another benefit to being signed in with Energy Sparks is our platform looks at your school's energy consumption, your data, and then it gives you a cost benefit analysis of changes you can make. So for example, we might suggest that your school could reduce your base load, which is the amount of electricity kept on all the time. For this school that I've taken this example from, it wouldn't cost them anything. So there's no time for payback, but it would save them about £5,000 a year. Okay, again, we might have reducing your out of hours electricity use or installing solar panels. And where there is a cost, we suggest payback and exactly how much we'd expect the school to save as well. We are focused on energy consumption. However, we do provide some activities on diet and thinking about how diet in the school contributes to the school's carbon footprint. And one thing that we've been developing this year is a school carbon tracking that looks at transportation. Now, I know Alistair is going to talk about that in a bit more detail in a minute, but I just wanted to share with you the app that we've been working with hackers or employees from OVO Energy, and they spent a day working on a program for us earlier this year. They came up with a school carbon tracker that pupils can use at school. Even young pupils can use it. They stand at the school gate, and as children come into school, they take note of what mode of transportation did they use and the pupils' details, and they can calculate how much carbon was created by that school journey on that one morning. We trialled that with Freshford earlier this year, and they had a green travel day following that, and they found that the car travel was actually cut in half, with a dramatic decrease in the number of shorter journeys made by car. So with that one school, we've already seen an impact with their travel plans. But what we'll do now is we'll go on to Alistair, and he can tell us a little bit more about school travel plans. But before we do, I just want to bring your attention to the fact that next Wednesday, I'm providing another training session for school eco-coordinators and teachers about bringing sustainability into the curriculum. And if you'd like that, or you'd know anybody that might benefit from that, then please do direct them to the council website and get them to sign up. Okay, if you do have questions, please put them in the chat and we'll get to all the questions at the end. Okay, over to you, Alistair.
Thanks, Paula. Are you going to do the slides?
Yes, I am. There we go.
Great. I'm Alistair. I'm the school travel plan officer at the council, and I, funny enough, support schools with their school travel plans. So I'm just going to talk to you a bit today about developing a school travel plan through Marsh stars and how it's one of the ways that a school can take action on a climate emergency. Hopefully by the end of this session you'll have a better understanding what a school travel plan is and why it is important. School travel and trying to promote sustainable travel is a wicked problem, and we don't expect schools to be doing it all themselves. The Marsh stars is part of a partnership with the council to be promoting sustainable transport across the authority. Thanks. Next slide. So why is the journey to and from school important for taking action on a climate emergency? Well, our climate emergency action plan is aiming to reduce car and van mileage per person per year by 2030 by 25%. And nationally, we know that approximately 1 in 4 cars on the road during the morning peak are on the school run. So the school journey is very important. We also know that travel habits in early life will affect choices made in adulthood. So as well as the immediate impact on traffic levels, by promoting sustainable travel and giving pupils the skills to do cycling, for example, we can affect traffic levels into the future as well. Next slide. So a school travel plan is a plan to encourage walking, cycling, and other forms of sustainable travel. It's a tool that allows you to assess the situation by collecting travel data and consulting with your stakeholders. You can set targets, and then through your school travel plan you develop your initiatives and implement those, and then monitor. By keeping all of this together in one place, it really helps your school organise how it's going to be promoting sustainable travel year on year. And through Most Shift Stars, it's all online via the Most Shift Stars portal. And it can also be a supporting document for things like planning applications or requesting new pieces of infrastructure. Next slide. Most Shift Stars, as well as being an online portal for developing a school travel plan, is also a national accreditation scheme. So by developing a school travel plan, your school is given entry to the national accreditation scheme. There's 3 levels of accreditation: bronze, silver and gold. For silver, we're looking for a reduction in car usage over 3 years, and for gold, we would want to see a 5% reduction in car usage. Developing a school travel plan using this national accreditation scheme gives you a structured framework which is informed by around 2 decades of experience on how school travel plans can be most effective. Next slide. And once your school has developed a school travel plan and achieved your accreditation, you then get an awards ceremony in assembly by me. Well, at least that was standard practice before the pandemic. Yeah, I guess from now on in, it's up to the school whether they want me to do an assembly. I can also record them. Next slide. Yeah, so Most Shift Stars is a continuous process of planning, doing, and reviewing. There's 3 opportunities to apply for STARS accreditation at the end of each full term. This Most Shift Stars cycle sort of shows the kind of process you would follow for developing a school travel plan. And I think it's really about finding out what the issues are, finding out what works, and then kind of repeating that and sort of embedding that learning into the school. So this is not just a one-off activity. The ambition here is to follow this cycle year on year and really embed it into school practice. Next slide. Actions you might have in your school travel plan fall under a kind of 4 main categories: information, skills, incentives, and infrastructure. The picture you can see in the top right is a bollard cover for a walking bubble at Moorland School Federation. So they set up a 5-minute walking bubble around their school, and they've used these bollard covers to promote that. In your school travel plan, you can also look at skills, so bikeability, cycle training, and pedestrian training. You might include incentives, like the Wild Travel Tracker or a Golden Lock. And you can also use your school travel plan to assemble evidence you need for infrastructure. For instance, you might want a cycle lane going to your school, or you might be interested in a school street scheme, which is a temporary road closure outside the school. So Most Shift Stars is a supporting document that you can use to advocate for these kind of measures. Next slide. It's always a good idea to hook into national school travel events when you're doing your initiative. So here's a suite of national events that take place through the year. If you like, I can email you a calendar with all of these on. Just email me and I'll send it across. Next slide. If you're interested in developing a school travel plan, first step is contact me. I can tell you I can tell you what your school has done previously if they've developed a school travel plan with no shift stars, and I'm there to provide one-to-one support in helping you develop your initiative. You can see in the top right there's a travel pie chart. So one of the services I offer is if you carry out a hands-up travel survey, I'll create classroom travel pie charts for you to put up. They're a great resource to have in the classroom. Next slide. Yeah, that's everything. If you have any questions, I think there's some time at the end for questions, or feel free to email me. Thank you.
Alistair, do you want to put your email in the chat just so that people have it? And then I can do that, and then Jill can do it. It's gone. I can put Jill's in as well. Okay, over to you, Pauline. I think you're on mute.
There we go. Someone had to, didn't they? Thanks very much. So as I was saying, my name is Pauline Harris. I'm a co-founder of the Schools Climate Network, and I'd like to tell you just a little bit briefly about what the network is, who we are, what we do, and how you can get involved as well. So Paula, if we could have the first slide, please. Great, thanks very much. So the Schools Climate Network is here to support local schools to put climate change front and centre in all decisions that they make. So this, it means doing everything possible to reduce school emissions. It's about bringing climate education into the classroom across the curriculum. It's about schools bringing the wider community along with them as well. And rather than being a student-led, the Schools Climate Network is a forum for school decision makers. So it's a place for head teachers, governors, trust leaders, and other school staff to share ideas, resources, best practice, and so on. And it's also a place for schools to find the right support from the local authority, from local and national organisations, and from the wider community of parents and families. We're a regional organisation, so we cover all primary, secondary, state and independent schools across South and North East Somerset, as well as some schools from the neighbouring authorities. So could we go on to the next slide, please? So here we are. The Schools Climate Network was co-founded by local councillor and school bursar Tom Davies, climate education expert Paula Malone, the Chief Operating Officer of the Palladian Academy, Joe Marsh, who we heard from earlier on, and several members of the parent-led organisation Families Acting on Climate Emergency, or FACE, including myself and local GP Dr. Alice Gardner, who you might recognise from the introductory video on our website, which is well worth a watch if you haven't seen it already. So could we have the next slide, please? Okay, so what do we do? So firstly, we bring school decision makers together. Now, back in December 2019, right before the pandemic, we held our first conference, which was attended by over half the state and independent schools in the county. And we are really looking forward to being able to get everyone together again in person for another conference early next year, which is on the very tricky but very essential theme of reducing emissions from travel to and from school. So we'll set a date of that as soon as it's confirmed. And one of the results of our first conference was that we had one school after another declaring a climate emergency. And this is a really key thing that we want to enable all schools to do. Now, to some people, a declaration just sounds like a box ticking exercise, but in practice, what it actually means is that the governors and trustees of a school have to sign off on a document which makes climate action one of the school's long-term strategic objectives. And that's, you know, that's a really essential starting point for taking meaningful action. So on our website, we have a how-to guide for any school wanting to make a declaration, as well as a template which you can adapt to your school. And then you can register your declaration with us so we can celebrate that milestone with you and support you in your next steps. So can we have the next slide, please? Okay, so one of the really tangible goals of our network and the national level schools network, which is called Let's Go Zero, is for schools to reach net zero emissions by 2030. Now, how do we get there? So in Bath and North Somerset, the three most important areas that need urgent action are to reduce emissions from our buildings, from our transport, and to make the transition to renewable energy. Now, of course, issues like food provision, waste, and restoring nature are also really important. One of the ways we support schools in their journey to net zero is by connecting them with local and national organisations, which can help with emissions reductions, but also with education, with teacher training, and getting the local community involved. So, for example, we've got a webinar lined up alongside Bath Community Energy, all about how to get solar power for your school. And that's on the 19th of October at 9:30. So do please get in touch with us if you're interested in attending. And we're also promoting this fantastic Inset Day video produced by the UK School Sustainability Network, which is free for any schools to use. So do please make use of that. So if we could have the last slide now, please. So here we are. Please do get in touch with us, sign up with us on our website to get the latest news, drop us a line by email or on Twitter. We'd really, really like to hear from you. And that's it from me. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Pauline. Brilliant. And our final speaker for today is Erica from Keynsham Wombles.
Thank you. Yes, so I'm feeling like the new kid on the block with all these amazing presentations. I founded Keynsham Wombles about 10 years ago, and over that time it's become quite a powerful cross-community project. So we work with, we work with schools, and specifically things like the Duke of Edinburgh Award schemes, local businesses, churches, Cub Scouts, just people in our community. And we found that a really powerful way of working. So that's now expanded to become the No Place for Litter project, which works with volunteer litter pickers across the whole of Bath and North East Somerset, bringing us together with members of staff and councillors at Baines, so that we can maximise how we work together and share, good ideas and starting to try and change the perception of litter, so that it's not just about removing litter, it's about changing people's thought patterns so that litter isn't generated in the first place. For me, my main motivation in all of this work is the harm litter causes to the environment, specifically to wildlife, our pets, and then the microplastics that, as we all know, cause such harm in the sea, but also increasingly science is showing how much harm microplastics cause to soil, and the soil's capacity to support plants and hold carbon. So that's my main motivation, but we would love to get much more schools engaged in litter projects. We've often come up against a sort of, when we've tried to organise things with schools, sometimes we get a very sort of, well, it's not our students who drop the litter. And to me, that's not the point. We're trying to get people to think differently about litter. It's not just about picking it up. It's looking at ways of preventing its creation. So that could be having a survey within the school, which sounds similar to some of your other projects, to see what's there. Where is this litter coming from? Why is it there? And then you have a basis then to start to tackle what's there. And that could be as simple as, I know a local school near us, there's a hole in the fence. They get you know, all sorts of people going in out of school hours and you know, the next morning the school playing field's covered in litter again. So, you know, obviously mending the school fence might be a solution in that situation, but I'm sure there's lots of other ways that, you know, things can be changed. Already within the No Place for Litter project, we hold litter picking equipment for Bath and North East Somerset, which we have 4 hubs around Bath and North East Somerset, which all of us are experienced litter pickers. So we can help any volunteer who wants to borrow that equipment. We can help them organise an event, whether that's just with advice or trying to find local people in the community who would join in, or helping ourselves. And that's, we do have lent that equipment out to school, but we would love to extend that loan project to other schools and to work more with schools. We're starting a new education project, and this is where I really do feel that I'm going into completely new territory. I started to try and think about why is it that litter picking projects are often so difficult to get off the ground, or not so much the litter picking, but how, you know, stopping people dropping litter in the first place. And I started to think, do we need to come at this from a different angle? So I've started to think, and we've started working on this project about how would it be if we worked with schools on rewilding parts of their school grounds, so that they were looking at their school grounds with a different eye, and that would closely link biodiversity and climate change with litter being an important part of that whole package and viewpoint. For us, we always like, in all the litter picking that we do, we like to link community together. So that would be an important part of the project for us as well. But I felt that this was a really good way of empowering young people to feel that they could make a difference over land, in this case the school, that they had some, I've forgotten the word, but some jurisdiction over, so that they can feel that they're in creating a rewild area that helps with biodiversity and climate change outcomes, that litter would be an important, removing litter and plastics from that area would improve the outcome of the project and help them to feel that they were making a difference through that project. It's very early days, we are still at the planning stage. So if anybody wanted to work with us, and it sounds as if what we're talking about here fits in very closely with some of the other projects that have been talked about today, and perhaps it's something that we can work alongside other projects that are already quite a few steps ahead of us. But anybody who wants to help, we'd be very interested in hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. I'm always amazed at how many little kids I hear of who are just desperate to pick up litter, and we just have this massive shift from 4-year-olds with litter pickers to teenagers dropping litter. So yeah, I think there's a lot that can be done in schools to keep that enthusiasm for a clean environment going. Okay, well, we're coming to the end of our session. We do have some time for question and answers. So if any of our attendees would like to put a question, we've got a Q&A and also a chat. So you can type, you could probably access one of those. We do have something in the Q&A. I'll read that out. And Alistair, this might be one that's best placed for you to answer. But we've got a question from Lynn Whitfield. I'm informed by parents that school transport is prohibitively expensive, overcrowded, and does not enable pupils to stay for after-school activities. More and more pupils are in cars across Bains, attending primary and secondary schools, state and independent. This has been called the toxic school run by UNICEF and has a huge impact on the health of our children. How are head teachers and academy trusts working with Bains to significantly reduce the school run and improve school transportation? If you'd like to comment on that. I know it's tricky. And before you do, I'm just going to say it's not just up to Bains and schools. It's got a lot to do with our bus transportation companies as well, who, for example, won't let me take my 6-year-old's bike on the bus. So I'm raging about that right now. But I'll let you talk about it, Alistair.
Thanks for the question. I'm all up for having critical questions. I think it's really important. So, I mean, my presentation on no-shift stars, that's kind of the main way that us in the Sustainable Transport team engage schools on promoting sustainable travel. We've also got the Livable Neighbourhood strategy, which was adopted last year, and that is looking at changes to the highway to make neighbourhoods more livable and encourage active forms of travel. So within that, we are looking at areas around schools and how we can make them more feel safer and more pleasant for walking and cycling to school. We have a few locations where we're looking at potential school street schemes. So that's a temporary road closure outside the school gate during drop-off and pick-up. So there are things that we're doing in my team. I can't comment on whether the amount of school journeys being taken by car is increasing in Baines. I haven't seen any data on that. But yeah, I hope that answers any part of the question.
Thanks, Alistair. We have a question from Marshall. How do we get more information about the Climate Action Programme by Wicked Weather Watch? It's not on their website. Marshall, I have put just a little bit further up in the chat, info@wickedweatherwatch.org.uk. So if you email Jill on that, then you'll be able to get in touch with her about the programme there. It's not on the website just because we get teachers contacting us from all over the place, and so we don't want to put it on the website because then people might think that it was applicable to everyone. There's a question from Jill. Can secondary schools take part in Energy Sparks? And absolutely, yes. We are a free programme for state and for state secondary and primary schools across the country, and we also have an agreement with privately funded schools to provide it for them as well. And then we have a question from Claire Jackson. I'm listening in from Bath and Bloom. We'd like to encourage gardening, including encouraging wildlife, composting and environmental food growing. The RHS has some good resources and awards, and we run a local competition. Is there scope for more schools to take up this challenge? Maybe Erica, would you like to comment on what your take on that would be?
I think we definitely need to talk to Bath and Bloom, and yes, I will look at those resources, because that sounds as if it could really fit really well into this project. Yeah.
Would any of our other panelists like to comment on any of the questions we've had? Or maybe even to say, what do you think, if schools only did one thing tomorrow, what would that thing be? What would be most effective in tackling the climate emergency? Pauline, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Right, I'll take it. I think sometimes the most effective thing is the most simple thing. And just using an example from the school my kids go to, which is St. Stephen's, the travel situation was a bit of a nightmare up there, and everybody was driving, and it was a nightmare to even walk because there was traffic everywhere. Everyone complained about parking all the time, etc. And it got to a point where the head teacher had to just tell everyone or ask everyone, please, can you just stop driving all right the way past the school? And we used one of Modeshift Star's walking bubbles, which is a really, it's just a specific ask. Please don't drive within 5 minutes of the school, park your car and walk the rest of the way. And it was simply because the head teacher had really clearly told all the parents not to do it. that it actually, you know, it really started changing people's mindsets. So sometimes it's the really simple steps, not to be shy, you know, as a school leader, to actually put yourself out there and talk to the community and ask for the things that you want to see happening.
On that note, I'm really happy to see we've got so many governors with us today, because a lot of the time you do get school staff and head teachers wanting to do things, and sometimes what they need is a little bit of a push from the governors to say, right, this is really important to us, so we want to see what you're doing about it. The head teachers might want to be doing it themselves, but there's so many other things that get in the way, and they do really need that critical friend push that governors can give. So yes, if you know, any of the governors listening today want to find out a little bit more about the School Climate Network and how it can support them, or how we can get Alistair to talk to your head teacher, or get your school enrolled on Energy Sparks, or set up a rewilding project with Erica, then please do get in touch. We've got our details in the chat, and also you can contact Michaela, Sustainability at Baines, and she can put you in touch as well. Okay. Well, thank you for attending. Just really pleased that so many of you are interested in making schools more sustainable, and this is the start of a conversation, not the end of it. This has been recorded and it will be shared, so please do share far and wide with your communities, and definitely with your schools. We have another session coming up next week, which is more aimed at teachers and getting sustainability throughout the curriculum. And then also, I believe there is another a Bath and West Community Energy webinar at 19th of October at 9:30 in the morning. Pauline, you're involved with that as well, is that right?
That's right. So if anyone wants to attend that, please do drop us a line. The Schools Network address, I think, was on one of the presentations. It was on the last slide, or in the chat. You've got the email address of Nick Bird, who's also hosting that webinar. So get in touch with us or with Bath and West Community Energy.
Yeah. If in doubt, email me, because I've got everyone's emails. So I can get in touch with everyone. Right, well, thank you, Erica, for putting your contact details in as well. So that was great. Thank you very much, Erica, and thank you, Alistair, and thank you, Pauline, for joining us today. My dog's kicking me, so it must be time to end. And thank you, Michaela, for setting it up, and hopefully we'll see you at some of the other fantastic events that the council has got set up for the coming weeks. So enjoy the rest of your rainy evening, and get out into your schools and make a difference. Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.